From the heart of the Space City to the heart of Gen Z, welcome to Next Gen Conversation. Not Dad's Talk Radio. Ethan talks to you about the issues and events that matter to our generation. This is the Next Gen Report with Ethan Buchanan.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Next Gen Report. It is a pleasure to be back with you. Of course, I was back on Wednesday. If you heard the Wednesday show on AM 950 KPRC here in the Houston area, you heard me back then. But if you only listen on Sunday evenings, we were doing reruns last Sunday. Had a great time at the Battle for Jefferson reenactment up in North Texas. That's always a great time. Get into history, folks. History is cool. History is fun. History is important. That's why I love reenacting so much. It's just a fun way to kind of connect to that. And you get to meet a lot of really cool people. So that's where I was last Sunday evening. It is a pleasure to be back with you. As much as I enjoy reenacting, I did miss being here to do this show with you. So let us start. Before anything, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Dave's Foot Lapel Pins. I got a shipment of new lapel pins in. I had just ordered some off the website. First of all, the Goliad flag pin is super cool. I love it so much. I'm wearing it now. And then we've got the Jerusalem cross pin in a sort of camo style. That looks awesome. And summertime is coming up. That means all sorts of things. The beach, having a few drinks on the beach with the boys, smoking some cigars, enjoying the nice weather. Just white boy summer stuff. We've got the white boy summer pin. Check that out. DeusVoltLapelPins.com. You can use promo code NEXTPIN2026. You'll get 10% off. Go in, pick out a handful that you like, order them, use the promo code, get a discount, stock up. These pins are fantastic. They're really cool to wear. They're a great conversation starter. And on top of that, they just look cool. I've seen folks on Twitter that'll do like shadow boxes with their Deus Volt lapel pin collections. I want to do that because I have a bunch. And right now they're just sitting on these little display cards that they come in, which are great, by the way. But I want to get a shadow box and make a lapel pin shadow box because it just looks super cool. So if you want to get in on that, go to DeusVoltLapelPins.com, grab a couple of lapel pins. Show me which ones you pick out. They're all great. Take a picture of them, post them on X, and tag me at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. All right, now, we have got quite a bit that we need to dig into today. Obviously, the big story is going to be the redistricting war, because I'll be honest, I kind of started blackpilling on the redistricting war. Right after Texas redrew its maps, obviously California went and redrew its maps. We knew that would happen. The Democrats got all uppity about redrawing their maps, and I believe several states still aim to do so. We'll get into Virginia and what's going on there in a minute, but it seemed like the GOP wasn't really behind Texas. The other Republican states weren't really with us. That tide has turned, I think, significantly, and I'm very excited about what we're seeing now. I'm all the way back. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about AOC, not ALC. We'll talk about her a little bit later. She'll come up again in the show, I think. But she said something that I think is just absolutely stupid. Actually, she said multiple things that are absolutely stupid, which is in character for her. But let's start with this thing that she said. This is, I'm not sure what podcast, to be quite honest with you. But she's on with some woman who appears to be equally dumb. And she makes the case that it's actually not possible to earn $1 billion. Not that it's really hard. She makes the case that it cannot be done. You cannot actually earn $1 billion. Take a listen to this.
There's a certain level of wealth and accumulation that is unearned, right? You can't earn $1 billion.
That's right.
You just can't earn that.
That's exactly correct.
You can get market power, you can break rules, you can do all sorts of things. You can abuse labor laws,
Yep.
You can pay people less than what they're worth,
Yep.
But you can't earn that, right?
That's
And
right.
so you have to create a myth that since you didn't earn that, you have to create a myth of earning it.
You have to create a myth of earning it. First of all, this stupid lady that she's on this podcast with, she's going, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's completely right. Yeah. Just patting her on the back as she says the most objectively dumb thing I've ever heard her say. And for AOC, that's an achievement because she says a lot of really dumb things. Good grief. But, I mean, again, the claim that she's making there is preposterous. It's completely impossible to just have a good idea, do a good thing, invest your money properly, and come up with wealth $1 billion or more, which is ridiculous. Now, I think probably part of her confusion here is maybe she's under the impression that if you're worth $1 billion, that means you have $1 billion US in the bank account ready to go. That's almost never the case. Almost never. I'm sure for some folks, it might be. For some super wealthy folks, maybe they actually have a cool billion in their bank account. But for most people that are worth that type of money, they're worth that on paper. They don't actually have $1 billion. A prime example of this is Elon Musk. And we're going to go through real quick the Elon Musk timeline because he is the wealthiest person in the world. And he actually did earn well over $1 billion. Now, again, he doesn't have all that in cold hard cash, but he's got it. But Yahoo Finance did an interesting article that I kind of like that absolutely debunks AOC, and it perfectly explains how he got all his money. First, he had an idea with his brother to make what I believe was just a map website for newspaper companies. And it was called Zip2, and it was in the height of the .com bubble. Everybody's hot on the internet, so a bunch of people invested into this, and then he sold it, and he made a lot of money off of that. He had a good idea, he built it up, and he sold it and turned a profit. Now, he started that idea with an additional $28,000 that he got from his father. That's how he built that company. And then he sold it and made a bunch of money off that. And then he reinvested that money into PayPal, and PayPal got big, and he sold that and made a bunch of money off of that. And then he reinvested that into Tesla stocks and into building SpaceX, and the Tesla just absolutely took off, I think largely because of his marketing, how he invested into it. Of course, SpaceX is a huge company, the biggest name in space exploration by far, and that makes a lot of money. And it's really easy to actually follow his timeline and see how he did this. But AOC believes this is impossible. It cannot be done. Elon Musk must have stolen from so many people. But actually, if you actually look into it, it's fairly simple. I'm not saying it's easy to make $1 billion, but it is fairly simple. All right, we got a lot to talk about today. We'll be right back with more of the Next Gen Report in just a minute. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, let's do it. Let's talk about redistricting. I want to make sure we set the stage, just so remember, this has been going on, this has been building up to this point, as these things often do, for a couple of years. Remember, this started in Galveston, Texas. I think the folks in leadership over at Galveston County should be remembered for this for some time. I fear that they may not be, but they should be. The domino that they tipped over in Galveston County in like 2020 is probably going to be the major political flashpoint of at least the next 15 years, I think. In my opinion, I think the thing that's going to have the longest lasting effect on our national politics, on the balance of power in this country, is going to be the move that they made in 2020 when they eliminated their coalition district. So, brief history, explain it as quick as I can. What happened was, in 2020, after the census, Galveston County redrew their commissioner's court lines. They eliminated what's called a coalition district. That's when you take all the black neighborhoods and the Hispanic neighborhoods and the whatever neighborhoods, basically all the neighborhoods that aren't white, and you draw them into one district. That's called a coalition district. It's, to put it simply, racially gerrymandering. You're drawing everybody into one district, no matter how goofy and weird it looks, because they're all not white. And the traditional logic there is, because they're not white, they're probably going to be Democrat, just because that's the way things go. Non-white folks tend to be more Democrat-leaning than white folks on a broad national scale. And so that was the math there. We can basically create these Democrat districts by looping all of these various colored people who frankly have nothing to do with each other all into one district. That's a coalition district. It's racial gerrymandering. Now, there had been a legal precedent from the Fifth Circuit for something like 37 years that you were required to do that at least a little bit by the Voting Rights Act, which is super crazy. The Voting Rights Act essentially just says, hey, you can't not let black people vote, which is good. We should have that, obviously. But the Galveston County commissioners, the Republicans on that court, basically said, we think this precedent is wrong. We think if we fight this in court, we'll win it, and we'll overturn that precedent, and that'll be a massive win for Republicans. So that's what they did. They deleted that district. They got sued over it by the Biden administration. They fought that lawsuit up to the Fifth Circuit, and they were right. The Fifth Circuit let it go, overturn that precedent. So now we don't have to draw these coalition districts. We don't have to draw all the black people into one district and all the brown people into one district and what have you. Now, Texas then said, okay, well, we're going to do that too. President Trump asked, and we were more than happy to oblige. And so in 2025, after that lawsuit, which took years to play through, came about, Texas did the same thing. And then that kind of started this off. That kicked this off. Every other Republican state started to realize, okay, wait, we can all do this. And we can increase Republican votes. And whether you like it or not, you don't have to. You are allowed to politically gerrymander. Maybe it's not fair. I don't care. This is how politics works. If you have power, you can wield the power. You don't have to like it. You don't have to think it's fair. If you're that upset about it because you don't have the representative you want in your district, move somewhere else. It's not that hard to do. All right? I have had to deal with this my entire life. My entire life, I have been a conservative person who lives in a Democrat district. I have never lived with a conservative Republican representative representing me in Congress. Does that mean I haven't been represented? Some would say yes. I don't think so. I just didn't get the representation that I particularly wanted. I made peace with that and I learned to live with it. You can too. And if it's that big of a deal, just move. So anyway, all these Republican states have been redistricting. And then, of course, there have been lawsuits in return. And we've now had, thanks to Louisiana, actual Supreme Court precedents that's above the Fifth Circuit. So we were doing this under the precedent that the Fifth Circuit set. Now we're doing it under precedent that the Supreme Court set. So that's even more license to do what we've been doing. All right? And all things considered, it's going fairly well. Tennessee has done it. Texas has done it. Alabama's working on doing it, I believe, as is Mississippi. Florida's working on doing it right now. And yeah, red states all around the country are either doing it or working on doing it, which is great. I think in Indiana, they were going to do it, and some rhinos in their Senate blocked it. All of those people just lost their jobs. All of those people lost their jobs. So I expect that Indiana will do it next year as well. So that's not in time for the midterm, so we won't see the benefit immediately. But it's still pretty good. It's good that they're doing it eventually. So the kind of flashpoints that cropped up this week were Tennessee and Virginia. Virginia is Democrat controlled. The Democrats tried to do what California did, which is redraw in response. Now, there are still some questions about whether California's maps will hold up, because I'm not overly familiar with the details, but it seems like California may have sidestepped a few rules when they redistricted. Virginia definitely sidestepped a lot of rules when they redistricted, and their maps were crazy. So we'll see what happens there. They've been struck down for now, but they've been appealed. We'll get into that in a minute. But let's start with Tennessee. That's a Republican state. Now, I want to show you the map that Tennessee drew. This is their new congressional maps as of like Thursday, I think. And all things considered, these maps look pretty normal to me. If you can't see it, there's 9 districts here, and they're all fairly continuous. There's some instances where you think, okay, well, this looks pretty gerrymandered. There's a few counties that they've kind of split into different districts. They've moved some stuff around. There's one district where it kind of loops around another and almost makes kind of a horseshoe shape, kind of similar to what Texas's 18th congressional district did for a very long time. But all things considered, these maps are not insane. What really aggravates people is down on the bottom left corner of Tennessee, where Memphis is. That used to be the area that was their one Democrat district in Tennessee. And it's been carved up. The Memphis area has been carved up into 3 different districts. And all 3 of those districts are now expected to lean Republican, which means Tennessee's one Democrat who represents the Memphis area, which was one of those coalition districts, is probably going to lose his job in short order. Now, folks are very, very upset about this. Very upset about this. And we'll dig into it here in a minute. But all things considered, if you look at this map from Tennessee objectively, it is really not that crazy. It's really not. I think they probably could have gone even farther in their redistricting, but it's not. It's a fairly normal map that looks fairly normal. You would have thought when they passed this map, I mean, I don't know what you would have thought. I want to show you, and if you're listening right now, you won't be able to see it, but come back on Monday when we upload the video to X at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. You'll be able to see it. Watch the reaction that they had in the Tennessee House as these maps were being passed. Let Memphis go. Let Memphis go. They're all in the gallery cheering. The Democrats in the Memphis House have taken to the floor and they're protesting as well. Air horns, and they're blowing air horns. There's something that sounds like maybe a fire alarm, and they're chanting and yelling as this map gets passed. They ended up having to clear the gallery because of how wild these people were being. And that's the other thing. I mean, Republicans in Virginia didn't act like this when they got screwed by the Virginia legislature. We just kind of buckled up and said, okay, well, we're going to fight this in court and whatnot. But the way the Tennessee Democrats have reacted is just absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. We're going to get into this in just a minute. We have got a ton of examples of the Democrats in Virginia just losing their minds. I mean, you would have thought that they just made it illegal for black people to vote in Tennessee just based off of the reaction. We'll be right back. Alrighty, welcome back. Once again, we're throwing out a lot of visual elements here. There's a lot of video we're going to play in this segment especially. If you're listening right now on the radio live, that's fantastic. If you want to see some of these visual elements later on, you can check out the video podcast we're recording right now as we broadcast at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchanan. Monday morning, we'll upload the whole video right there. It should be up. I usually get it up by about 9 a.m. So you can see the whole video, all of the different images that I'm showing you, the different maps, stuff like that. Great place to just stay in touch as well with the show. Check me out there. Now, we're talking about Tennessee's maps. Tennessee's maps, I think, are fine. Once again, I'll throw it up on the stream. This is really not anything insane. I mean, again, you can kind of see they've gerrymandered it a little bit. I think the biggest one is District 5. Obviously, that's kind of weird looking. It wraps around another district. That's kind of gerrymandered. But again, as far as gerrymandered districts go, this really isn't that bad. Even here in Texas, we have districts that are way, way crazier. And then you start looking at some of the blue states where they've been gerrymandering their districts for a while, and you'll see some wild stuff. Absolutely wild stuff. So why are we acting like this is such a big deal? It really doesn't make any sense. And again, the reaction. I played you some of the video in the last segment. When this was passed, I mean, you would have thought that they just reinstituted slavery with that bill, just based on the reaction. And of course, they go and they start clearing the gallery because you got people up there with bullhorns and sirens and chanting and whatnot. You can't get any business done, and this is a formal legal environment. So they had to clear out the gallery of the Tennessee House. One representative in the Tennessee House, a Democrat, of course, actually went in there and was fighting with the cops over this, trying to pull them off of some guy that was being shepherded out of the gallery. Take a listen to this audio. This is the class of people that the Democrats in Tennessee are choosing to represent them. This is a crazy video. Listen to this. Pushing him. Move the F back.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You stupid mother.
What is wrong with you, you pig, you stupid mother effer, boy? Now, I've watched this a handful of times. I can't see anything that these troopers do wrong. They're trying to shepherd this guy out of the gallery. Rep. Pearson, who, for the record, has actually been completely expelled from the Tennessee House before. This is not the first time he's made a fool of himself. He actually got kicked out of the Tennessee House. Now, that triggered a special election, which he ran and immediately was reelected back into the House. But he's been kicked out of the Tennessee House for doing this. And he's getting in there, interfering with the officers, and they're trying to sort him out from the guys that they're clearing from the gallery, and he's in the way. And he gets upset with them for this. What did you think was going to happen? Honestly. So he ends up going back out into the cameras, leaving the Tennessee State Capitol, and he again does this big grandstanding routine. This is him talking to the press right after that. And again, this is Thursday, right after they pass these new maps.
This is what white supremacy does. This is it trying to force us to capitulate. Yeah. And I appreciate y'all not capitulating. And I'm going to take the votes. I'm going to speak up and speak out. But this is the problem with our democracy. This is the problem when white supremacy rules and governs and guides instead of democracy. Come on. Where are you going? Where the car?
We're going into the van.
This is the problem when white supremacy governs instead of democracy. Oh, how terrible. Now, I've said this 1,000 times before. If you're a regular listener to the show, you know that one of my biggest pet peeves in all of politics, really, is when somebody says we're a democracy. The United States is not a democracy. It never has been a democracy. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. It never will be a democracy. So my, I think, all-time biggest pet peeve ever is when someone who should know better uses the term democracy to describe the United States or any of the individual states, because all of the states have a pretty much identical system of government with some small changes. But pretty much every state has, just like the federal government does, 2 houses of legislature and executive branch and so on. So we aren't a democracy. And we keep seeing this, because they've removed this Democrat district, that this is white supremacy. Well, not necessarily. Why does that have to be white supremacy? Even AOC, again, I told you she'd come back. She's making this same point. She says states like Tennessee want to wipe out every black representative on the map.
When you are seeing states like Tennessee want to wipe out every black representative on the map in these states, we have an obligation as Americans to stand with black Americans and communities whose representation is being disenfranchised.
Now, again, one, it's not racist to do this. 2, even if it was racist, they'd be doing a pretty good job of doing the old racisms, because if you're watching the video, you see it right there. You see the pictures of Cohen the Democrat representative that just effectively lost his job through Tennessee's redistricting, he's a white guy. So even if this was all about just removing the black voice from Congress, you wouldn't be doing a very good job of it. And the dirty little secret here is this has nothing to do with race at all. This is about politics. And you don't have to like it, but we can do it. We can move Democrats out of Congress by redistricting. It is allowed. You can say it's unfair. I don't care. We're allowed to do it. We're doing it. It is in our political interests. We're doing it. What's even crazier here is if you look into Democrat Steve Cohen, who has represented the 9th District of Tennessee for 20 years, thereabouts, he is actually, in all likelihood, going to be replaced by a black woman who is a Republican. If you look at Ballotpedia, you can see the history of his past elections. In 2024, which was the last time he was up, he beat out Charlotte Bergman, a Republican who is black. In 2022, he again beat out Charlotte Bergman, a Republican who is black. 2020, same story. 2018, again, same lady. For at least 3 election cycles, probably more if you go back. I don't want to sit and dig back this entire time, but yeah, going all the way back to 2014, they have been running this same black woman against him, which at some point you might have to realize she's just not going to win, pick another candidate, but that's neither here nor there. This white guy has been in office in this Tennessee district that just got destroyed for 20 years, beating out black women for the seat, or a black woman. And yet Democrats will still look you dead in the eye and say it's racist that the Republicans in Tennessee are kicking this guy out of office. How? How is this at all racial? Now, politically speaking, we've removed Democrat voters from one big block. We've spread them out, so there probably will not be a Democrat there. That was done politically. That was not done racially. And again, we're allowed to do it. But still, the talking heads on CNN will still tell you this is actually racist. I'm not kidding. Right after the evening this happened, this is what the conversation on CNN was like.
The woman now who is likely going to win the 9th District in Tennessee is a black Republican woman as a result of this redistricting effort. It's likely going to be a black Republican woman who beats that old white man.
Could I make this very simple point?
But that's racist?
We're going to come back. It actually is. We're going to take a quick break, and then Tesla and...
It actually is. It actually is racist. It actually is racist to replace a white Democrat with a black Republican. That's white supremacy, according to the Democrats. Now, common sense would tell you that that's a stupid thing to say, but the Democrats don't have any common sense. They're plumb short of that. So, honestly, you can make the argument that it's unfair to do this gerrymandering, because to a certain extent it is. We are using our political power as Republicans to give ourselves an advantage. To a certain extent, absolutely, it is unfair. Guess what? Life ain't fair, neither is politics. We're allowed to do it. It's completely legal. It's completely constitutional. We're going to continue to do it. It's not at all racist, and it's impossible to make that argument coherently. All right, we're going to talk about Virginia and what happened there in this segment. But before we dig into that, I saw this video from Wesley Hunt, and I think this perfectly blows up this Democrat argument that in order to represent someone politically, you have to have the same skin color, which is essentially the argument they're making. They're making the argument that because we're not guaranteed a Democrat or a black Democrat, we're not being represented, which is ridiculous because Steve Cohen is a white guy. So the representative that they have in Tennessee right now in that Democrat district that just got removed, He's not even black. So they're not even being consistent with this argument, but it's the argument they're making. Somebody asked Wesley Hunt about this, and he is a black Republican in a majority white district here in the Houston area. He, I think, had the best possible response to this. Take a listen.
There's been a lot of talk how there won't be any black Republican members in the new term. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Nothing. I don't understand how that's relevant.
But is it a problem with like recruitment? Or
I don't think it's a problem with anything. I'm not here because I'm black. I am here because I'm qualified representative for Congressional District 38, and the American people choose who they want to choose. Yeah. And the one thing I don't want to get into is this game of race bait all day, every day. If there's 4, if there's 10, if there's none, what we are talking about is who is the best person that is best qualified to fill a seat regardless of the way that they look. And I tell people this all the time till I'm blue in the face. I represent a white majority district that President Trump would have won by over 20 points, and I won by 25 points the last time I ran. I'm being judged not by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character. I don't care how many black people are here. I want the most qualified people that are here.
And
thank you.
Oh.
Perfect answer. It's not about color. Nobody cares about color. Frankly, this is an issue of politics, not of race. And the two are separate. Maybe back in past days of this country, the issues were intertwined. They're not now. You can be black and be a Republican. You can be white and be a Democrat. You can be whatever. And the Republicans want more Republicans in Congress. They're allowed to gerrymander in order to make that happen. You don't have to like it, but they're allowed to do it. And of course, the Virginia Democrats are allowed to do the exact same thing. And so that's what they did. They passed a new map, and I want to show it to you. The map that Virginia passed is, frankly, there's no other way to put it. It is insane. Take a look at this. The current bounds, you can see up at the top, we've got, I think, 2 districts that are in kind of the Fairfax area, and then a 4th one that's in, I'm not sure what that city is, but most of the state is pretty rural and pretty red. And then on the right side, in the north right side, the closer you get to, Washington, D.C., and some of their other bigger towns, like you would expect in any state, it's a little bit more liberal. And their current maps, I think, reflect that. It doesn't look actually particularly gerrymandered to me. I'm sure there's a little bit, but it really doesn't look all that gerrymandered. Their new proposed boundaries are insane. This is the map that was passed and then struck down by the Virginia Supreme Court. It gives them one Republican, and he's all the way down in the bottom left of Virginia. And then the entire Shenandoah Valley is all carved up and connects to that Fairfax area. So you have like 5 districts that are all originating in the same town that's up here and then cutting down through the Shenandoah Valley, just alongside each other. It's completely insane. It doesn't make any sense. It's not anything that anyone would even consider being slightly possibly reasonable. Now, of course, if they had gone through the process properly, they would have been able to do this. And I wouldn't have liked it, but it's allowed. I'm consistent on that. You're allowed to gerrymander to all hell. They passed this referendum through their legislature. It's a constitutional amendment, an amendment to the Virginia Constitution to create that map. And then they put it in front of their voters to vote on it. And the voters approved it narrowly, and then it got struck down by the court. And Gavin Newsom is very upset about this. Here's what he tweeted out. No votes in Tennessee for +1 GOP. No votes in Florida for +4 GOP. No votes in Missouri for +1. No votes in North Carolina for +2. And no votes in Texas for +5. Virginia's voter-approved maps were thrown out. MAGA has rigged the system. That's the claim he's making. MAGA rigged the system by throwing out the voter-approved maps. What you have to understand is there is a very, very complicated process in Virginia to amend the Virginia Constitution. All right? And that's what this referendum did. It's amending the Constitution to suspend the normal redistricting rules so that the legislature can implement this new map. The way they do it in Virginia, and this is a summary, I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding of it is essentially You have to have the legislature pass this constitutional amendment. You have to have another legislative election. That constitutional amendment has to be passed again by a separate legislature. And then it can be put on the ballot and after like 40 days or something along those lines. They didn't do hardly any of that. They just passed it, ram it through, put it on the ballot, held a vote. On top of that, I want to show you what actually appeared on the voters' ballots, because there's a general rule in politics. When you put something on the ballot, you have to kind of use neutral language to describe it. Like, you can't basically get people to vote by saying, vote yes if you want to be on the good guy team and vote no if you want to be on the bad guy team, which is essentially what Virginia did. Here's the question. Should the Constitution of Virginia be amended to allow the General Assembly to temporarily adopt new congressional districts to restore fairness in the upcoming elections? That's what appeared on the ballot. Should we be fair or should we be mean is essentially the question that was asked of Virginia voters. And it was not asked in the proper way, shape, or form. Not even close. And so this got to the Virginia Supreme Court, and they obviously said, hey, you guys didn't follow the process at all, and so we're taking this down. And of course, the Democrats have lost their mind over this. The Democrats have gone berserk. Because how dare you strike down our voter-approved maps? Well, you didn't follow the rules. The big difference here is when the GOP states have gone through and done these redistrictings, you can make the case that it isn't fair. You can. I'm open to that. You might be right. I don't care about fairness at this point. I care about winning. That's where I'm at politically. However, you cannot say that the Republicans have broken the rules. You might not like how we're applying the rules. You might not like the fact that we've realized these rules are actually able to be used in our favor and we're doing it. But we have followed the rules. The GOP, the Republican states, Texas in particular, who led the charge on this, we followed the rules. Our Constitution does not require the same things the Virginia Constitution does. All right? That's how the founders of this state put it together. That's how it's been put together in the past. That's how we've operated. We're allowed to our legislature can just redistrict. They can just do it. Those are our rules. We don't have to have a committee. We don't have to have a census. We don't have to have anything. The legislature can get together, draw new maps, pass them. The governor can sign it. Boom, we've redistricted. That's how it works in Texas. Those are our rules. We follow them. The rules in Virginia are different. Now, if you want to change your rules, there's a process for that too. There's a process in the Virginia Constitution to amend the Virginia Constitution. That's what they tried to do here, but there's a process. You have to follow the process. The Republicans have been following the process. That's why our maps keep getting upheld. We see it time and time again. Republican states will pass a new map. Democrats will sue. It'll get upheld because we are allowed to do this, and we know we are. The Democrats are allowed to do it too, but you got to do it properly. And maybe in Virginia, doing it properly takes a long time. I'm sure they'll try again to do this, but it won't be done by 2026, I guarantee you. All right, that is all I have got. Thank you very much for listening to the Next Gen Report. We'll be back on Wednesday. If you're listening in Houston, AM 950 KPRC Wednesday at 2 p.m. Be there. If not, follow me on X at _Ethan Buchanan, Buchan. God bless.